We called it The Promise. That's what my wife, Sarah, and I called our move. We were leaving Chicago, leaving the coded language, the polite rejections, the constant, grinding weight of it all. I was a history professor, specializing in the Reconstruction era. I spent my days reading about the past, and my nights living in its shadow. Sarah, she was a therapist. She spent her days healing the trauma that the city inflicted on people who looked just like us. We were tired. We were weathered, and we had 2 kids. Maya, 16 and brilliant, and Leo, 12 and all heart. We were watching the city harden them. We saw Maya's bright optimism dimming, saw her learning to expect the insult. We saw Leo's open-heartedness replaced by a defensive crouch. So we made the promise. We sold our condo. I took a position at a small, prestigious liberal arts college. We bought a house with 3 acres of land in a town called Liberty Falls, Virginia. Liberty Falls. The name itself felt like an exhale. Nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains, it was all green hills, historic brick storefronts and fresh air. It was a place where, we told ourselves, our kids could just be. A place where they could ride their bikes, where the schools were good, and where the history wasn't a weapon, but just scenery. We were, of course, fools. We were the only black family in our entire subdivision, the nice one, with the new builds and the good property values. Our neighbors were polite. The hello wave from across the lawn, the brief tight-lipped smiles at the mailbox. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't hostile. It was just distant. We were a novelty. The Harris family, the new professor and his quiet, pretty wife. We told ourselves this was better. Better than the sirens. Better than the fear. The first 6 weeks were idyllic. I was setting up my new study, breathing in the smell of pine and damp earth instead of diesel fumes. Sarah was painting the dining room a warm yellow. Leo joined the local soccer team. Maya, always the explorer, was hiking the trails behind our house, her camera always around her neck. "It's beautiful here, Dad," she told me one evening, showing me a picture of a sunset breaking over a ridge. It feels clean. That word, clean, it stuck with me. The illusion, like all illusions, was shattered by something small, a school project. Maya's new AP history teacher, a woman who wore her Virginia heritage like a suit of armor, had assigned the class a project on local geography and its historical roots. Find a landmark. The teacher had instructed, and trace its name back to its origin. I was thrilled. This was my specialty. "That's fantastic, Maya. We can go to the county archives. We can look at the original survey maps. This is how you really learn history, not just from a book." Maya, bless her, was less than thrilled. "Can't I just do Liberty Falls? It's right there in the name." "Too easy," I said, smiling. "Find something real, something old." She went to the local library, the one with the big, white columns and the oil paintings of stern-looking men from the 1800s. She came home 3 hours later. I was in the kitchen, making dinner. Sarah was reading on the sofa. Leo was playing a video game. The front door opened and closed, but there was none of Maya's usual noise. No backpack dumped on the floor. No "I'm home." Just silence. "Maya," Sarah called out, not looking up from her book. "That you, baby?" I looked into the hallway. Maya was just standing there. Her face was, I don't have a word for it. It was pale. She looked like she'd been struck. "Maya, what's wrong?" She walked into the living room, her steps heavy. She was holding a piece of paper, a photocopy. "I found my landmark," she said. Her voice was a whisper. "What is it? A mountain?" I asked, still cheerful. She just held out the paper. I wiped my hands on a towel and took it from her. It was a map, a copy of an old U.S. Geological Survey map of our county. She had circled a small blue line, a creek, that ran about 3 miles north of our new house. And she had circled the name. My eyes focused. I read it, and the air left my lungs. It read, Nigger Creek. Not a typo, not a faded 19th century script. Just there, official, printed, black and white. Nigger, creek. I stared at it. The kitchen was silent, save for the sound of Leo's video game. Elijah? Sarah said, sensing the shift. What is it? I couldn't speak. I just handed her the map. I watched her face. She scanned it, confused, and then her eyes found the circle. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her book slid from her lap and hit the floor with a soft thud. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God. Leo paused his game. What's wrong? Maya, her voice trembling with a rage I had never heard, finally spoke. The creek. The one I hike by. The pretty one with the little waterfall. That's its name. That's its real name. She was looking at me, her eyes brimming with tears. You're a history professor, Dad. You're supposed to know this. Why is that? Here. And in that moment, the promise we had made to our family felt like the cruelest joke in the world. We hadn't escaped the shadow. We had just moved to a place where they didn't even bother to hide it. We had moved to a place that had carved it into the land. Sarah was the first to react. She went into fix-it mode. She snatched the map from my hand, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it in the kitchen trash. No, she said, her voice shaking. Absolutely not. You are not doing your project on that. You'll do Liberty Falls, like you wanted. We will just pretend we never saw this. This is a mistake. An old stupid mistake that doesn't mean anything. But Maya wouldn't let it go. It does mean something. It's on the map, the teacher said. She said the names are our history. This is not our history, Sarah snapped, her voice high with panic. We just got here, Maya. We are not starting this, Elijah. Tell her. She looked at me, and I was torn. As a husband and father, I wanted to protect my family. I wanted to agree with Sarah, to throw the map away, lock the door, and pretend the world outside wasn't what it was. But I was a historian, and I knew that Nigger Creek wasn't an accident. It was a statement. It was a monument, as deliberate as any statue, left there to send a message. And the message was, you may be here, but you do not belong here. This land is not for you. I can't tell her to ignore it, Sarah, I said, my voice low. Because it's not a mistake. It's official. So what? Sarah said. It's an old map. It's probably been changed. I shook my head. The USGS doesn't change names unless someone makes them. If it's on that map, it's on the road signs. It's in the county records. It's real. Then we ignore it. She pleaded. Elijah, please. We came here for peace. For our kids. Don't go to war. Not here. We won't survive it. I looked at my daughter, her 16-year-old face, looking at me with such profound disappointment, as if I was failing her. Right there, in our new clean kitchen, I made a decision. Maya, I said, you're right. You can't do your project on that. It's inappropriate. Sarah sagged in relief. But, I continued, you and we're going to get it changed. Sarah's face hardened. Elijah, no. Sarah, I can't know this and do nothing. I can't look my children in the eye. I can't be a history professor and let this stand. It's a simple fix, a polite letter, a petition. This is a reasonable town. They probably just don't know. It's an oversight. We'll just inform them politely, Sarah repeated, her voice bitter. There is nothing polite about that word, Elijah. She was right, but I was still naive. I still believed in the system. I still believed in Liberty Falls. My first step was a polite letter. I spent 3 hours on it. I addressed it to the Liberty Falls Town Council and the County Board of Supervisors. I wrote as the Dr. Elijah Harris, Professor of History. I framed it as a clerical error, a relic of a bygone era that I was certain the modern, forward-thinking citizens of Liberty Falls would be eager to correct. I suggested they revert to a more neutral, descriptive name. I didn't demand. I didn't accuse. I suggested. I got a letter back 2 weeks later. It was from the clerk of the council. It was brief. Dear Dr. Harris, we have received your query regarding the geographic landmark known as Nigger Creek. The town council has placed your item on the agenda for our next public meeting. We value community input. The meeting will be held on October 30th. I showed it to Sarah. See, I said, trying to sound confident. It's on the agenda. We go, we speak, they vote. Simple. Sarah just looked at me. October 30th? The night before Halloween? They're burying it, Elijah. They're hoping no one shows up. We'll show up, I said, my jaw tightening. The night of the meeting, the air was cold. The town hall was an old, beautiful brick building, the kind they put on postcards. But inside, the meeting room was strange. It was packed. Word had gotten out. I had expected a sleepy, procedural meeting. This was a crowd, and they weren't there for the zoning ordinance. They were there for us. We were the only black people in the room. We sat in the front row. I could feel the eyes on my back. Hundreds of eyes. I could hear the whispers. That's him. The professor. Trying to change the creek. The mayor, a man named Thompson, finally got to our item. Next up, community query regarding the name of, a local waterway. He couldn't even say it. Dr. Elijah Harris. I stood up. My hands were shaking. I walked to the podium. I had my speech prepared. It was academic. It was eloquent. It was non-confrontational. Good evening, Mayor Thompson, members of the council. My name is Dr. Elijah Harris. My family and I are new residents, and we are so proud to call Liberty Falls our home. I started polite. I spoke about the power of names. I spoke about how they reflect our values. I spoke about the unfortunate nature of this particular name and how it did not reflect the welcoming community I knew Liberty Falls to be. I am not here to assign blame, I said. I am here to offer a solution. I am here to help us align our geography with our values. I simply propose we change the name, perhaps to Clearwater Run or Ridge Creek. Something appropriate. I finished. There was a smattering of polite, hesitant applause from maybe 3 people. Then the floor was opened for public comment. An old man, his face like wrinkled leather, stood up. He wore overalls. Mayor, he said, his voice a gravelly drawl. My name is Silas Abernathy. My family's been in this county for 9 generations. 9. My great-great-grandpappy. He settled that land by that creek. He turned and looked right at me. His eyes were pale blue and hard as stone. That creek, he said, has been called Nigger Creek for as long as any of us can remember. It's our heritage. It's history. He spat the word history like a challenge directly at me. Now this professor, he comes in here, ain't been here 6 months, and he wants to erase our history. He wants to tell us that our words are bad, that our grandpappies were bad men. The whispers grew louder. That's right. Tell him, Silas. Abernathy continued, his voice rising. It ain't about hate, Dr. Harris. It's about heritage. That name is a part of us, a part of this land. You come here, and you want to change us to fit you. Well, I say, if you don't like our history, maybe you're in the wrong place. The room erupted, not in shouts, but in loud, aggressive applause. It was a wave of sound that hit me in the chest. My polite academic speech. It was ashes. A woman stood up. He's right. My kids play down there. We just call it the creek. The name doesn't hurt anyone. It's just a word on a map. Why is he so sensitive? Another man. This is political correctness gone mad. What's next? Are we going to rename Liberty Falls because it offends someone? This is a slippery slope. For 20 minutes I stood there. Sarah had come to stand beside me, her hand gripping my arm. We stood there and listened to a parade of our new neighbors, our new community. Defend the word nigger. They defended it as history. They defended it as heritage. They defended it as just a word. They painted me as the aggressor, as the outsider, as the sensitive one, as the one bringing hate and division into their peaceful town. Finally, Mayor Thompson banged his gavel. Order, order. We thank the community for your passionate input. He looked at me, not with sympathy, but with annoyance. I had brought this problem to his door. "Dr. Harris," he said, his voice all bureaucratic procedure. "Given the complex historical nature of this issue and the strong community feelings, I move that we form a special subcommittee to study the origins of the name and the potential costs and impact of a change. This subcommittee will consult with local historians." He nodded at Abernathy. "And will report back to the council with their findings in 6 months." The gavel came down. Motion passed. 6 months. He hadn't said no. He had said 6 months, which in politics is the polite way of saying, "Go to hell and don't bother us again." We walked out of the town hall. The crowd parted for us, but the silence was loud. I could feel their glares. We got to our car. Sarah got in and was silent. I got in, and for a moment, I just gripped the steering wheel. "Elijah," Sarah said, her voice quiet and shaking. "Let it go." "I can't," I whispered. "You have to." Did you hear them? This isn't a polite oversight. They like it. They're proud of it. This isn't a fight we can win. This is their town. It's our town, too, I said, finally raising my voice. "We own property. We pay taxes. We live here." "Do we?" she said. "Do we, really? Or are we just visitors?" "Elijah, I'm scared. Not for us. For Maya. For Leo. What did we do?" "We brought them here." "For this?" I drove home in silence. The backlash started the next day. The local paper's online comment section was a cesspool. If the Harrises don't like it, they can go back to Chicago. This is what happens when they move in. They want to change everything. It's just a word from a book. Get over it. I'll tell you what, that professor is the real racist. But that was just online. It was the real world that got cold. Sarah went to the grocery store she'd been going to for 2 months. The cashier, who had always been friendly, was suddenly curt. She didn't make eye contact. She practically threw the change at her. The neighbor across the street, the one who always waved, he stopped. He'd see me get the mail, and he'd turn around and go back inside. But it was the kids. That's where they hit us. Leo, my 12-year-old, my happy all-heart boy, he came home from soccer practice with a split lip and a black eye. Sarah screamed, "Leo, what happened? Who did this?" He was trying not to cry. It was nothing. I fell. "Don't you lie to me, Leo. Who did this?" Maya, who had been quiet ever since the meeting, spoke up from the stairs. "It was the other kids on the team." Leo's face crumpled. They kept calling me a name." "What name?" I asked, my blood turning to ice. He looked at the floor. He whispered it. They called me Nigger Creek Boy. They kept pushing me. And they said my dad was stupid and that we should go away. And I pushed one of them. And then he couldn't finish. He just started to cry. And in that moment, I saw my wife, Sarah, the therapist, the healer, the peacemaker. I saw her break. The fear that had been in her eyes since the library. It vanished. It was replaced by a fire, a white-hot, terrifying rage that I had never, ever seen. She didn't comfort Leo, not at first. She just stood up. She walked to the phone. "Who's the coach?" she said, her voice flat. I don't know," I stammered. "Maya, find the team roster. Find the coach's name." "Mom," Maya said, scared. "Find it now." She found it. Sarah dialed. I heard the one-sided conversation. "Is this Coach Miller?" "This is Sarah Harris, Leo Harris's mother. My son just came home with a split lip and a black eye. Your team, your whole team, called him Nigger Creek Boy and then beat him up. Yes, I am accusing them. No, I will not calm down. You meet me at the principal's office tomorrow, 8 p.m., and you bring the boys who did this and their parents, or I will be at the police station filing assault charges against every single one of them. And you, as a negligent accessory, Do you understand me? She slammed the phone down. She turned to me. Her face was transformed. You were right, Elijah, she said, her voice shaking with adrenaline. I was wrong. I was a coward. I thought if we were quiet, they'd leave us alone. But they're not. They're not just ignoring us. They're not just history. They put their hands on my son. She pointed a finger at me. So you go to your library. You go to your archives. You are a history professor. You told me that name was a statement. Fine. Find out what it's saying. Find out why they are so proud of it. Find the bullet, because we are not running. This was our new beginning, not the polite request. This was the fight. I went to work. I didn't just go to the local library. I drove 4 hours to the state archives. I pulled the original county, surveys from the 1830s, 1840s, 1850s, and I found it. The heritage that Silas Abernathy was so proud of. It was a lie. In every single map before the Civil War, the creek had a different name. It was called Clearwater Run, a simple, descriptive name. Clearwater Run. So, when did it change? I started pulling the post-war maps. 1868, still Clearwater Run. 1870, Clearwater Run. And then, 1877, the map from 1877. The name was different. It had been changed, officially, by the county surveyor, to Nigger Creek. Why 1877? I was a Reconstruction historian. I knew what 1877 meant. It was the year of the Great Betrayal, the year the federal government pulled the troops out of the South, ending Reconstruction and handing power back to the former Confederates. It was the year that redemption, the rise of the KKK and Jim Crow, began in deadly earnest. This name, it wasn't heritage. It wasn't an old-timey name. It was a threat. It was a monument. It was installed in exactly the year that white supremacy was violently retaking control. It was a victory flag, but I needed more. I needed the why. I left the maps and went to the newspapers, the local gazettes, on microfilm. I spun the wheel, my eyes aching. I searched the archives for 1877, Liberty Falls. I found ordinances about livestock. I found church social announcements. And then I found it, a small article tucked away in the corner of a page from July 1877. The headline was, Local Justice. My blood ran cold. The article described how a Negro vagrant, a man named Joseph Fields, had been apprehended for allegedly insulting a white woman. The article said that a big group of concerned citizens, fearing he would escape, had taken him from the sheriff and administered justice themselves. The article concluded, the body of Joseph Fields was found by the bank of the waterway, formerly known as Clearwater Run. I had to put my head between my knees. I was going to be sick. They hadn't just named it. They had renamed it for the lynching. It wasn't a monument. It was a trophy. It was a celebration of a murder. And Silas Abernathy, his great-great-grandpappy, who had settled that land. I would bet my life. He was one of those concerned citizens. The heritage they were so desperate to protect. It wasn't the name. It was the act. It was the power to do such a thing, and then carve the memory of it into the very land, forcing everyone for the next 150 years to see it, to say it. I had the bullet. The next town council meeting was in 3 months. The subcommittee was due to give its report. We didn't wait. Sarah, my new warrior wife, had organized. She had found the other people in town, the quiet ones, the few other families of color, who lived on the poor side of town, who had been silent for generations. She had found the young, progressive white families, who had moved there for the same reasons we did, and who were horrified. She had formed the Liberty Falls Committee for Dignity. When we walked into the town hall this time, we didn't sit alone. We had 50 people with us. The room was just as packed. But this time, it wasn't all on one side. Abernathy and his crew were there. They looked smug. They were about to deliver their report. The mayor called the meeting to order. We will now hear the report from the special subcommittee on the waterway name. Silas Abernathy himself stood up, holding a piece of paper. Mr. Mayor, he drawled, after diligent research, our committee has found that the name Nigger Creek is an integral part of our county's history. It is a fixed landmark. We find that there is no compelling reason to change it, and that any change would be an insult to the memory of our ancestors. He sat down. His friends all clapped. The mayor looked at me. Dr. Harris, the committee has reported. This matter is not closed, I said. I stood up. I didn't go to the podium. I just stood in the aisle, and I was not the polite professor anymore. I was just a man, a black man, and I was done. Mr. Abernathy, I said, my voice echoing in the silent room. You talk about heritage. You talk about history. I'm a history professor. So let's talk about history. Let's talk about your heritage. I held up a piece of paper, a photocopy of the 1870 map. This is the official county map from 1870. The creek. It's called Clearwater Run. This is the map from 1868. Clearwater Run. 1850. Clearwater Run. Your heritage. It's a lie. Abernathy started to stand up. Now you listen here. No, you listen to me, I said. And the room. It was dead quiet. The name, I said, my voice shaking with a cold rage, was changed. It was changed in 1877, and I was curious about that date. It was the year Reconstruction ended. The year the troops left. The year your ancestors took back power. I held up the second photocopy. The newspaper article. You're not protecting heritage. Mr. Abernathy, you're protecting this. I walked to the front and I placed the article on the overhead projector, so everyone could read it. Local Justice, July 1877. A black man, a vagrant, named Joseph Fields, was accused of insulting a white woman. He was taken from the sheriff by a mob of concerned citizens. He was administered justice. He was lynched, and his body was left by the waterway formerly known as Clearwater Run. I looked at Silas Abernathy. His face was gray. This isn't heritage, I roared. It's a murder scene. It's not a name. It's a trophy. Your committee, your heritage. You are asking this town, you are asking my children, to live in a place that celebrates a lynching, a place that carved a monument to a hate crime. Into the goddamned earth. Silence, just absolute horrified, stunned silence. The heritage argument was gone. It had been vaporized. The mayor was stammering. This is, we had no idea. You didn't want to know. And now, Sarah stood up. My wife, the therapist. She walked to the podium. She looked like a queen. She didn't speak to the mayor. She spoke to the room. My son is 12 years old. Last month he was beaten up by his own soccer team. They called him Nigger Creek Boy. They split his lip because you, all of you, have protected this. You told them it was just a word. You told them it was history. She pointed at Silas Abernathy. Your heritage split my son's lip. Your heritage is teaching a new generation of children to hate. She then looked at the mayor. Her voice was not a request. It was a command. This is over. Tonight. You are not forming a committee. You are not tabling this. You are going to vote. You are going to vote to remove that filth from our maps. You are going to rename it. I don't care what. Clearwater Run, Liberty Creek, or how about Joseph Fields Creek? A woman from our group, one of the white mothers, stood up. I second that. Fields Creek, that should be the name. Sarah stared at the council. You will vote, and you will pass it. Or on Monday morning, Dr. Harris, the historian, and Mrs. Harris, the mother, we will be on every single national news channel with this. She slapped the lynching article, and we will tell the world that Liberty Falls, Virginia, is a town that proudly and knowingly celebrates the murder of a black man. Your tourism, your pretty postcards, they will be gone. It was checkmate. The mayor was sweating. He looked at the council. I call for a vote. A vote to immediately petition the state and federal board to change the name of Word Creek to Fields Creek. Say his name, Sarah said. To Joseph Fields Creek. All in favor. 5 hands went up immediately. Even the man who had been on Abernathy's side. Motion passes unanimously. We walked out. Our group, our community, they clapped for us, Abernathy and his crew. They just sat there, defeated, exposed. We got in the car. We didn't cheer. We didn't celebrate. I just put my hand on Sarah's. She was shaking. "It's over," I whispered. She looked at me, and I saw tears in her eyes. "It's not," she said. We won the name, but we saw what they were, what they're still willing to protect." She was right. The name was changed. It took 8 more months of bureaucracy, but it was changed. The road signs, the new maps, they now say Joseph Fields Creek. We stayed in Liberty Falls. We didn't run, but the promise, it was gone. We had traded one illusion for another. The racism, it wasn't in the name. The name was just the symbol. The real racism, the thing we had to fight, it was in the defense of it. It was in the polite, bureaucratic 6 months. It was in the passionate input of our neighbors. It was in the heritage and the history that they used as a shield to hide the dark, rotten core of what they truly believed. It's still there. It's in the way people look at us at the grocery store. It's in the quiet, but it's there. We won the battle, but the war, that war is in the land itself. It's in the soil, and you can't just vote that away. The story you just heard is a fiction, but it is not a lie. It is happening right now, all across this country. There are thousands of these names, on creeks, on mountains, on valleys, on streets, and they are not history. They are statements. They are threats, left over by men who wanted to make sure that even 150 years later, we would know that we were not welcome. So we want to hear your story. Look at your own town. Look at the names. On the streets, on the schools, on the land. Ask why. And when they tell you it's heritage, don't believe them. Dig. Find the real story. Find Joseph Fields. And then, do not ask them to change it. Make them. Share your experience in the comments below. Your story matters. And if this story meant something to you, subscribe and share it. Because silence is how they win.